This week, we're closing on our 9th asset, which I guess brings us to about $28 million in acquisitions so far this year in 2021. So I figured it would be time to talk about finding your own commercial deals. I get asked that all the time. How do I even find, one, how do I find a deal? But two, how do I find a commercial deal? Because commercial real estate is far more complicated than residential real estate for many reasons, right? One, it's typically a more sophisticated buyer or investor that's going to be owning the asset. But two, they'll buy it in an LLC that goes to a PO box that gets answered by their attorney. That's not always fun to deal with, but that's what we're gonna dive in today, finding your first commercial deal. One other quick note I want to say, clearly we've got merch now. It is not available for sale, which I don't know why. It is not available for sale, so I don't really know why I'm telling you that right now, but at some point, we will have the Wash merch available for sale on the website, eatwash.com. Hopefully that project will be delivering in September, so we're only about a month out from that as well. So excited. We're having a bunch of pop-ups and stuff like that, and you know what? This is a vlog, so I can tell you what I've got going on in my personal life and not feel bad about it. Finding deals. So when you get started in commercial real estate, deal flow is one of the most important aspects of finding and investing in commercial real estate, right? If you can't find a deal, how are you going to possibly invest in commercial real estate? And it's not as easy as just jumping on the MLS. That was one of the hard things I had to learn a few years ago when I got into commercial real estate, because for whatever reason, most markets seem like this. Nashville especially, I think 15 years ago, the commercial sector of realtors, or agents, we don't really call ourselves realtors, most of us are actually not realtors, decided to break away from the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors, and we stopped putting our projects on the MLS. It actually works out better for commercial real estate investors and brokers in general, because it ensures that you're only dealing with more sophisticated individuals that know how to go about finding projects, which again leads to this point of frustration we're talking about today, but it makes it tough to figure out comps or what's available in the market. You actually have to know people that are involved in the industry. Most brokers will keep a sheet or a list of all of the potential, buyers, sellers, properties that may be coming soon, leases that may be coming available soon, so that they can stay ahead of that and work to fill those deals. Out of the $25 million in assets that we have closed on so far this year, and the one that we're closing on this week, which brings us up to 28 million, 100% of those were off market, which is relatively unheard of in residential real estate. So finding a deal can be very complex. Okay, so if it's so difficult to find deals, how do you do it? Well, the first thing is to get out and network. Network, and let's hope that ruins all of the audio that we are getting right now. Stay tuned. We're building out an event space downstairs that's part of being in real estate. We're constantly under construction everywhere. So I know if you've been joining on the live streams, you've probably been hearing that because they work at all hours of the day, which I actually do appreciate as an investor because it gets it done faster, but it can be a little annoying when you're trying to record a vlog. When I first got started in commercial real estate, I guess almost 8 years ago, that was one thing that I actually did not do. I was an in-house leasing agent for a firm, so I just worked on the in-house properties and fielded the phone calls, handed out flyers. I didn't really network with other brokers or wholesalers or other investors. And about 2 years into the business, that kind of came back to haunt me because I stabilized that shopping center, the office building, and the industrial portfolio that I was working on and realized, hey, I'm commission-based and I have nothing else to sell. I better go out and find a job. And the very obvious way of doing that is going out and getting more listings. Well, I hadn't been networking at all. I didn't know anybody outside of my company, really. I mean, I had met brokers here and there that we'd done deals with, but I didn't know any other property owners. I didn't know any lenders. I didn't know any attorneys. So I kind of struggled there for a little bit. But the year that I got out and started networking, I tripled my income. Because how can people do business with you if they don't know who you are? So my biggest recommendation is to tell everybody that you know that you are looking to buy commercial real estate. It doesn't matter if it's your babysitter, it doesn't matter if it's your grandparents, it doesn't matter if it's the banker that you happen to know. Everybody has connections to potential assets that you can buy. It's like the 8 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever it's called. Come on. It's like, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the 8 degrees.
It's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I mean, you're only 6 connections away from meeting Kevin Bacon. So maybe you're only 6 connections away from finding your next commercial real estate investment. So let everybody know that you are investing in commercial real estate. And don't be afraid to tell them exactly what you're looking for. Hey, I want to go out and buy single tenant net restaurants. I mean, most people are probably gonna have no idea what you were saying and think that you need to relearn English, but that's just part of what you're doing. You want to be very specific so that the people who do know, that are likely to bring that kind of property to you, know exactly what you're looking for. Get out and meet with brokers. Go introduce yourselves to them. Take them out for coffee. Take them out for lunch. Make sure that you stay in front of them. Is this really not in the shot?
No.
And my hat is fully in the shot?
Yeah.
What the cameras are weird. Stay in front of them because they are the front line when it comes to finding deals. They're typically doing everything else that is on this list that I'm gonna give you. So why not just cut straight to the chase and work with them? The great thing is, as a buyer, they don't charge you. Typically, in commercial real estate, it's just like residential. Their broker fees are going to be covered by the seller and are typically already built into every deal. You could, of course, not get a broker and try and save yourself the 3%, but trust me, having a good broker that brings you deals, that helps you go through the due diligence, that helps you negotiate and work on comps is almost always worth it, especially since you don't have to pay for it. So go find a good broker. A couple other people that you'll want to network with are, of course, any real estate investors. Join real estate groups. Join the real estate investors of Nashville in your area. Obviously, you may not be in Nashville, so go join whatever real estate investor group is local to your area, because obviously everybody else in that room is doing the same thing you are, and maybe they're sending out letters, maybe they're making cold calls, maybe they're door knocking. So it would be that much easier for you. When I first got started as a commercial real estate broker, when I first started my firm, I decided what is the easiest way for me to go get business? To network with every residential agent in town, because no commercial agents wanted to work with them, and I was the only one that they knew. So guess what? I had a sales force of like 1,000 people that were out there talking with multiple people a day. And guess what? Sometimes people who are buying homes are buying commercial properties. So they would call me. So I'm happy to pay them a referral fee because I didn't have to go out and find that client. They would just bring them to me. So that's a great way. Think of your network like that. They're basically an extended sales force for you. They can go out and find these projects. A couple others, let's see. You could also network with lenders. Lenders are the ones providing debt on all these projects, so they're gonna know other investors that may wanna sell sometime soon. Real estate attorneys are also great to network with. They have all of the clients that you could ever want to buy real estate from. Of course, I mentioned residential agents. I would, of course, hire a commercial agent to represent you, but a residential agent could bring you a deal as well. And let's not forget about wholesalers. There are wholesalers out there that are sending out tens of thousands of letters a month. If they're sending out that many letters, chances are good they're gonna accidentally come across a commercial property at some point. Well, when I was networking at the Real Estate Investors in Nashville, I was the only guy that did commercial real estate. So all of those wholesalers, when they found a commercial property, I was their first call. It is such a good position to be in because you get to look at these deals before anybody else, which means you're not competing with anybody else, which can be pretty frustrating, especially in a very hot market like what we are in right now. Outside of networking, there are several other things that you could do on your own. They can be pretty time intensive, capital intensive, or just energy draining. But I mean, if you're really good at doing them, why not, right? You kind of skip the middleman, go straight to the source. So one of those is door knocking. Some people call it driving for dollars, right? Go drive through your neighborhood, find a commercial property that looks like it's been vacant for a while, or something that may seem run down. Go knock on the door. See if the tenant is there. See if they can get you in touch with the owners. Maybe it's an owner-occupied building, or maybe it's just completely closed down, there's nobody in there, and you'll have to look them up on the tax records and send them a letter. Or you could look them up on the tax records and go to, I think it's White Pages, and find their phone number. You could also do some skip tracing, which we haven't really done a whole lot of, but I know that you can do that. Sometimes skip tracing in commercial real estate can get difficult because, like I said, you'll have an LLC sheltered by a PO box that goes to an attorney that never returns your calls. If door knocking and driving for dollars is not your thing, you could of course cold call. You could of course find a local phone book if they still exist, maybe use Yellow Pages or White Pages. I don't know which one is actually for Commercial, I think white pages is for commercial businesses. But you could go through that and just start dialing to see if those people are going to answer. One of my personal favorites, and we do this all the time, is send out postcards and letters. Check out this video right here on our direct mail strategy. It's a little bit different for commercial real estate, not too different, but you do want to be very conscientious of how it's being done because you're typically dealing with an investor that is somewhat sophisticated, right? So it's a little bit different than just dealing with a homeowner. But that has often been the most effective form of marketing that we've had. I actually bought a building in East Nashville last year that we're putting a bakery in now that came off of a letter when COVID first hit. When COVID hit, all I did was send out 10 letters a day myself. I had the team sending out 10 letters each. I think we were sending out 40 or 50 letters a day, handwritten to property owners in East Nashville. So of course, we found a few that were very interesting. So we hand address every letter. Sometimes we'll hand address the return address. Sometimes we'll just use a sticker. And then I type out the letters that we actually send them. It's way easier, saves me a lot of time because I don't have hours and hours to be spending on this. But I will hand sign every single note so that they know it is legit and it is not something that was just tossed out there out of a machine without any thought. So our open rates on those have to be insanely high because again, it looks like a personalized note to the owners. We get a lot of calls from those. So I highly recommend checking out that video again because we dive into that strategy and it really does work. Like I said, I bought a little over 2,000 square foot retail space last year for it, put a bakery in there, all because it came off a letter. And the great thing is too, when I found that property through the letter, I didn't have any competition going after the property. I was dealing directly with the owner. It wasn't on market, which saved us a lot. I mean, we paid $412,000 for it and I think it appraised for $650,000. So think about that. Right off the bat, we've got over $200,000 in equity in this property, which is like 50% of what we paid for it. So that can be an amazing way of finding properties. No matter what method you choose, stick with it for some extended period of time. I don't care whether that's 3 months or 3 years, you've got to figure it out and test it out. When you start a podcast, you don't just do 2 episodes and then get upset that you didn't get 1 million followers. You got to do that for at least a year. It'd be like if I released one video on YouTube and then didn't understand why I never got famous and went viral. You've got to keep at it, be consistent with it. I know plenty of guys who have bought property on the 12th or 13th letter that they sent. So, I mean, of course, don't just send a letter every week and annoy the hell out of people because that's a horrible way of doing business. But what I am saying is send a letter every month, right? Every month. They'll get it. You never know what's going to happen. I actually had a property owner call me 2 years after a letter that I sent because they kept it. Oh my God. This is fucking comical. I had a group call me 2 years after I sent them a letter. Because they kept it, right? It's a physical piece of paper. They kept it because they knew at some point they would need help with their property. And they called me, like I said, 2 years later to come help them. That's why I like letters better than phone calls, because nobody's going to call you 2 years later because of a phone call unless somehow they saved your number, which never ever happens. And they probably won't remember your name either. So keep that in mind. But like I said, stay the course. Once you find that first property, you close on it, the deal flow actually ramps up. It's almost this exponential increase. We are really not actively trying to find properties anymore, and I keep getting them tossed in my lap, which can be frustrating at times because we're constantly raising capital. Plug for the investment company. If you're interested in investing with us on any of our projects, check out the description below. We'll have a link to our website for my development company, Hamilton, which is doing value-add investments and developments throughout the greater Nashville area and Chattanooga, but you know, expanding. So yeah, just stay the course. In a few years, you'll be turning deals away because you've got too many opportunities, which is a really great spot to find yourself in. Now, of course, once you've found the deal, you need to put your vision together for it, run some back of napkin numbers, figure out if it makes sense before you really start spending any time underwriting. Of course, we go pretty in depth on all of our underwriting. I have a couple of analysts that work for us. We do everything from market research to figure out what's going on in the area, which most of that we know because we're investing in East Nashville, which is where most of my properties are. but also we're running the numbers. We're figuring out, okay, well, how does this look if the debt is actually a higher loan to cost? Or what does this look like if we get 10% less rent because we missed our rent projections? All of that is very important, especially if you're raising capital and doing these deals professionally as a syndicator or a deal sponsor. And last but not least, believe in yourself. I mean, I say this all the time. If you join in on the live streams, you are the best horse to bet on, right? So go out there and just get it done. All right, so now that you have gone through the process of finding your deal, you're probably going to need some capital unless you just are Daddy Warbucks and have an unlimited bank account, which I doubt because most investors don't. Check out this video here on how to find investors for your next project. We'll see you there.